Hello, welcome to the second installment of the HOPESD info series, The Future in ADU. Thanks for joining me. For those of you who are here for the first time, hi, my name is Nicole Lilly. I'm the Housing Projects Director at Our Time Tact United, and I'm very excited you're here and interested in learning more about how housing options can prevent exclusion in our San Diego community. There is much to know about ADUs, so I won't be silly enough to presume I can cover everything here, but there are many misconceptions and disagreements about ADUs. So let's start with the basics. What is an ADU? An ADU is an accessory dwelling unit, also sometimes called a granny flat or a backyard apartment. It is an independent secondary unit that is on a shared lot with a single-family household. It is regarded as one of the solutions to addressing the rising housing prices in cities like San Diego. These backyard apartments can help us address the housing crisis by increasing housing availability in areas where suburban sprawl has taken up much of the land. These residential dwelling units are usually around 50% of the size of the single-family residence, up to a maximum of 1,200 square feet and 25 feet in height. These units can be attached or detached from the original property, but are built with permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation for one or more people. They provide more affordable housing options for San Diego, not only because they increase our housing supply, but also because of how they are built. The value of the median home in San Diego as of June 2022 was $900,000 and was projected to jump by 10% by June of this year. It seems to have been an accurate projection, considering the median listing home price in San Diego is currently sitting at $1 million, according to Realtor.com. This outrageous median cost is caused by several factors, so let's talk about them. Why is housing so expensive in San Diego, and how can ADUs help these issues and provide a more hope-filled future for San Diego? Let's just address this one and get it out of the way. Yes, it's San Diego. The location, we're by the beach, it's a high resource and rich in employment opportunities area. It's going to be expensive. Folks had to work hard to move here, but it's never been quite this hard. Also, even when accounting for a location, a $1 million median home cost is still major, and the super wealthy are not the only hardworking individuals who should be able to live in a high-resource area like San Diego. Another obvious reason is simply a lack of housing. We have not been building enough housing. From 2010 to 2020, San Diego built 59,000 fewer housing units than necessary to match the exponentially growing population. ADUs can help us solve this problem. I mentioned suburban sprawl earlier. What is that? Well, suburban sprawl is when low-density development, usually single-family homes, spreads unchecked and widely through much of the available land. This kind of sprawling development is terrible for our environment and builds far too few units on our limited developable land to meet the needs of San Diego's ever-growing population. ADUs built in the backyards of these low-density single-family units would provide the infill to make up for this lack of available housing units, while allowing the suburban cul-de-sac neighborhoods to remain and adapt to our environment and future's changing needs. Another reason housing in San Diego is so expensive. Land, permits, labor, materials, etc. are expensive. Building housing that can be sold at an affordable level and cover the cost of construction is nearly impossible. Though not the only reason, this cost to build is certainly playing a large role in the rising median home price and overall lack of affordability in housing. ADUs can help provide a solution to this problem by reducing some of the costs associated with building new homes. For one, accessory dwelling units are built on land that is already owned, so land costs are not an additional expense. Additionally, due to the 25-foot height restriction, these ADUs can be built with wood frame construction rather than metal frames that can be a far higher expense and significantly raise the price of the eventual housing unit. ADUs can also help owners of single-family homes afford their own expensive housing costs by providing an additional source of income for the owner of the property who is renting out the ADU or their own single-family home at an affordable price. I know you might be thinking, Nicole, hold on. How are people going to afford to build an accessory dwelling unit in their backyard? Housing costs are expensive enough without building a whole other property. Well, for one, like I mentioned, the accessory dwelling unit can be rented out, or lived in while the single-family home is rented out. The profit made from renting out the property will help pay for the costs over time. Again, I know, Nicole, that's great and all, but how about people who can't afford to just build another property first and have it be paid for eventually in the future? I've got you. We're in a serious housing crisis. The housing crisis is more than an economic issue. It's a human rights and well-being crisis as well. Housing is a human right, and with this understanding, the government provides several grants to property owners, local agencies, and nonprofit organizations to help build, upkeep, and supply additional housing units via ADUs. If you're interested, check out the California Department of Housing and Community Development at hcd.ca.gov/policy and research/accessory dwelling units and look under funding for ADUs. All right, let's tackle another misconception, that ADUs trap people into only ever renting and never being able to afford their own housing unit. ADUs can provide more affordable housing to young renters who can then save more money rather than spend all their income on rent, and eventually save enough to purchase their own housing unit. Also, the current state of the housing crisis makes homeownership far less attainable than if we were to begin actually implementing solutions like building more accessory dwelling units. So how do we do it? Where are they allowed? What are all the rules and laws around ADUs? Now this is where I provide another disclaimer that there is much to know about ADUs, and I cannot hope to explain it in full detail and depth. But that being said, let's go over some rules about ADU development and a recent policy change here in San Diego that will make it easier to build ADUs where they will be able to achieve the most good. Well, we already went over some of the rules of accessory dwelling units. Let's review them. ADUs are independent secondary units that are on a shared lot with a single-family household. They have permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation for one or more people. They can be 50% of the size of the single-family residence up to a maximum of 1,200 square feet and 25 feet in height. You can also only build one ADU per single-family residence in most places. However, thanks to policy changes, this is not always the case. Enter SDAs or Sustainable Development Areas. What are Sustainable Development Areas? Well, before we define those, we have to define transit priority areas. Transit priority areas were the old policy for rules about high-density development near transit. Under transit priority areas, within a half-mile radius from a major public transit stop, both bus and trolley, more than one ADU could be built, and higher density was encouraged throughout density bonuses within the circle. This 0.5-mile radius calculation was as the crow flies. With the shift to sustainable development areas, the radius of coverage for this policy not only extended the radius to 1 mile rather than only half, but changed it from as the crow flies to a calculated walkable 1-mile radius from major transit stops. This recent change in policy allowed San Diego the opportunity to double the benefits of TPAs. Sustainable development areas made an additional 5,224 acres eligible for density bonuses, as well as an additional 4,612 acres eligible for unlimited status in regard to ADUs. Also, in these priority areas, one less than half of the ADUs owners construct must be designated to affordable housing. SDAs have all the same advantages of TPAs, but have significantly increased the amount of land that can reap the benefits of these priority areas. This unlimited status means that in SDAs you can build as many ADUs as fit in your yard as long as it also follows the other rules and regulations of ADU development, which you can find on san diego county.gov's website. And don't let my drawings fool you. These ADUs can be extremely beautiful. Here are some examples of actual ADUs. The change to sustainable development areas not only allows more accessory dwelling units to be built in an effort to combat the lack of housing supply and affordability in the housing crisis, but also encourages higher density development across the board and encourages climate-friendly forms of transportation like public transport to help us also meet our climate action goals. Our Time to Act United also mobilized young residents to advocate for sustainable development areas when they came up at City Council, and advocated for the young residents who couldn't be there that day, but had expressed their support asynchronously. We'll be going even more in depth on how to participate synchronously and asynchronously in housing justice, and talking about other ways the city and state is helping encourage high-density solutions to the housing crisis through other policies and laws like SB 9 and SB 10, but those topics are for future info videos. There is so much more I could tell you about accessory dwelling units, but I will keep it at that for now. Please feel free to reach out to me at my email, nicole.lilly@autounited.org, or over Instagram at autounited. If you haven't already, definitely follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our newsletter and YouTube to stay up to date with all we have going on. Additionally, if you've come across this video without already having filled out our HOPESD form, check that out as well to stay up to date with this info series at autounited.org/HOPESD-interest. Thank you for watching the second installment of our HOPESD info series, and I look forward to seeing you over Zoom or speaking to you over YouTube again next week. Friday, 6 p.m. for How It's Made, Land Use Scenarios, Community Planning Group's info session. Thanks for having hope for the future of San Diego.